Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1419B, and today's date is November 7th, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Cabal Ready to Take Action? Something Big Might Happen Soon. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, as we can see, Obamacare, well, it is dying very, very quickly. I know the corporate media is trying to make it look like that signups, they're the best they've ever seen. And you have to remember what's included in these signups. All the people that are subsidized, that are re-signing up to all this, they include those individuals. But we need to wait for the tax information that comes out, because that really shows us how many people opted out of that. So if they tell you, oh look, we have 8 million people signing up and we have 12 million people who opted out, well, we have to look at the 8 million people who signed up and really break that down and find out, well, who was subsidized, who was already on it and signed up again. And you need to really look at that, because they skew the numbers to make it seem like, oh, we're doing so great. So we need to use a little bit of common sense right now. Now think about it. Premiums are skyrocketing, and they're telling us that more people are signing up now. We have half the exchanges that are shutting down because they're bankrupt. We also have the 12 largest insurers that are leaving Obamacare: Aetna, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Optima, and many others. So you're trying to tell me that the corporate media is out there and they're saying that this is the best year ever. It makes no sense. What they're doing is they're doing what they do best. They're feeding everyone fake news to make everyone believe that Obamacare is incredible. I mean, look what CNN did. They were caught using a fake video Monday morning to pretty much mock President Trump. That's all they really do. He was out in Japan with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and they were emptying a box of fish food into a koi pond. And all they did is they showed Trump dumping his box over, and they pretty much said, and this is coming from CNN, Trump joined his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe in feeding fish, emptying the whole box of food into the koi pond. And then we had other people out there saying that big stupid baby dumps a load of fish food on Japanese koi pond. What they didn't show you, and they're only showing the picture of Trump dumping the food, they didn't show you the whole video of, wait a minute, Shinzo Abe doing it first, and then Trump following what Shinzo Abe just did. Now, again, they kind of skewed this to make you think this is what's happening. And what's very interesting, this whole fake news thing is not something that just happened, where, everyone is out there saying, ooh, fake news, alternative media. If we go back in time, Thomas Jefferson, he actually made comments on fake news. Because guess what? He knew the government put out fake information back then. And if you listen to what he says, and I'm going to read some of his quotes here, he said the following: "Our liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without being lost. The basis of our government being the opinion of the people, the very first object should be to keep that right. And were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without a newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter. But I should mean that every man should receive those papers and be capable of reading them." And he went on to say, "Nothing can now be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into the polluted vehicle. The real extent of this state of misinformation is known only to those who are in situations to confront facts within their knowledge with the lies of the day. I will add that the man who never looks into a newspaper is better informed than he who reads them, inasmuch as he who knows nothing is nearer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors." So going back in time, they knew about fake news. They knew that the newspapers are intertwined with the government, that they put out fake stories. This is what we are seeing today. The corporate media is owned by, 5 to 7 different companies. They're controlled by the intelligence agencies, and they are pushed to put out propaganda. this is what we're seeing today, and they're continually doing it. Just like with North Korea. They're trying to make it seem like North Korea, they're going to be attacking the United States. They want to get into war. Trump has been playing along with them. And I said this in the past. It looks like Tillerson and Trump are playing good cop, bad cop. I know a lot of people don't believe this. But behind the scenes, they are having peace talks and discussions about calming the situation down. Russia, China, Duterte, Abe, a U.S. representative, Tillerson, they're all there. And all of a sudden, Trump did a 180. He's saying that he's calling on Korea to make a deal. He shifted his tone. He abandoned his aggressive rhetoric toward North Korea. This tells us they're getting closer and closer to a deal with North Korea. And he wants North Korea to come to the table and make a deal. This tells us that we're getting closer to what is going to happen here. Now, the Cabal does not want this to happen. They don't want any of this to happen because, as we know, they've been using North Korea to bring in military assets closer and closer to China. They wanted to get into North Korea so they can bring the military assets right to the border of Russia and China. The question is, why were they doing this? They wanted this to happen because they knew, and this is the Cabal who doesn't want their system, this is the Fed system, to end, because there's certain government officials and those who are not elected who like this system because they make a lot of money. I mean, they control the Fed. They create currency out of thin air. They have the power to sanction anyone. They can start war. They can fund the wars, and nobody questions anything. And they can use black pools of money, currency, to do this. Why would they want this system to end? They don't. This is why the Cabal has been pushing their agenda to get into North Korea and bring military assets into South Korea, into North Korea, and hopefully to start a war to stop what they're trying to do. And I'm not just saying China, what the main central banking system's trying to do. The main central banking system, they're trying to move everything someplace else. Now, if this creates an event, a war, the central banking system's very happy with this because they don't care, what happens during the war. Actually, they would like the population to be reduced because they can start their system all over again and people would not be the wiser of what is really happening because they would start out slow. They understand how the whole system works and they would put countries into debt very, very slowly and end up controlling them. Because as we know, after the war, people forget what has happened. So we see right now the Cabal, they don't want to let go of this. The central banking system, they want an event so they can distract everyone from what is really going to happen, which we're moving to a new system. And we can see that all of this is happening at once. Remember, all these groups, they're all different factions that are and all this is happening all at the same time. We see out in Saudi Arabia, as we know, there's a coup going on right now, and we're seeing that Saudi has purged many, many individuals. They have frozen around 1,200 bank accounts right now. They have taken control of the news media, and as we know, the Saudi reserves, they are declining rapidly. Why? Because the Cabal has put pressure on Saudi Arabia to cut the oil prices, to put pressure on Russia, and Saudi Arabia, guess what? They can't survive during this whole thing. So Saudi Arabia right now, they have confiscated $33 billion from 4 of its richest people, and they're going to be using this money to keep their country afloat. Now, we're going to have to wait to see how this all plays out because we understand that Saudi Arabia, Israel, many other countries, they are trying to push an event and trying to push Iran right now. Israel, they've begun their largest ever aerial military drill we've ever seen. And it looks like right now it's including many different countries. It's coined Blue Flag 2017. Air forces from 9 countries with about 50 planes are now starting to drill in the most southern region of the country. And we see at this point that sometimes these drills go hot, which means that something does happen, and then all of a sudden we're attacking, or Israel is attacking, or something is happening, or there's a false flag and something is getting ready to be pushed forward. So we might see some type of an event right now, because this is what they've been trying to do. They've been trying to push an event, and they want something to happen. And we can see already with Lebanon, with Saudi Arabia, with Israel, United States, they're trying to get into Iran. Remember, they only have two things that I can see right now that's going to work for them. North Korea, they want to start a war with North Korea, or Iran. These are the two things that they have at this point, and it looks like none of them are gaining traction unless they have some type of an event. We see Lavrov is out there saying, listen, the U.S. coalition, we have set up communications channels within Syria. We are talking to each other. We're talking about the ground troops. We're talking about air communications. We're cooperating with each other. So things are radically changing in Syria right now. And the United States, I'm not talking about the Cabal, where, they're still pushing their agenda to try to create a Kurdish region. I'm talking about the Pentagon, and the Pentagon that is working to get rid of the Islamic State. And we have two things happening in this region. We have the paid mercenaries. We have the Cabal that is still controlling parts of that situation. We have the U.S. military, which is out there really fighting the Islamic State. We have two of these different things happening at once. And it looks like the Cabal is losing out, and they're losing their power, because Russia, again, is saying that they have spotted U.S. helicopters picking up the Islamic State commanders and transporting them away. Remember, this is the paid mercenary army, and they're trying to save as many of these individuals as possible so they're not captured and they can be used maybe someplace else if they maintain their power, which it looks like this is not happening. Assad is out there, and he's saying, listen, the war is not going to end with the Islamic State or Al-Qaeda. Once they are eradicated from the country, they're taking the country back from the Syrian Democratic Forces, from the moderate rebels, because, once again, this was not a grassroots uprising. These forces were created by the United States, the coalition forces. They were created out of thin air to try to overthrow Assad. He understands this, and there's no room for these individuals. And I think what's going to happen is the Syrian Democratic Forces, the moderate rebels, they're going to flee as fast as they possibly can. The Kurdish region is not going to happen, and the United States and the coalition forces are going to be asked to leave Syria, and that is going to be the end of that, unless, once again, they have some type of an event. And we know maybe a year and a half ago, they smuggled a tactical nuke into Aleppo. It was probably transported someplace else. Who knows? Maybe they'll use it. Maybe they won't. Maybe it's gone. But again, we can't just say, oh, everything is done and everything is fine, because we know they always like to push the next event. And it looks like they're running out of time, and the clock is ticking down. And we could see there's a huge push to get into Iran right now. There's going to be a huge push with North Korea, but it looks like the talks, they're gaining traction right now, because we can see already that Trump is doing a 180, and he's kept the corporate media blindsided this whole time, thinking that, yes, we're going to be going to war. Yes, North Korea is going to be attacking us. Yes, we have to defend ourselves. And once again, all of this is not happening unless there's an event. Now, we see out in Texas with the church shooter, Devin Patrick Kelly, we come to find out that he was not shot down or killed by the police. It was individuals that had weapons, because the police did an autopsy on this individual and found that the bullets were from other individuals, not from the police. So this individual passed away from other individuals, the good guys with guns, who stopped this person. Now, Kelly, he jumped into his car. This is Devin Patrick Kelly, jumped into his car, and his car crashed into a ditch, and they found Kelly dead in his vehicle, and they did an autopsy. They realized that, yes, he had 3 bullet wounds, and he died from the bullet wounds, and none of them were from the police. So we see right now that guns do protect. Guns stop an individual. Guns will help in the situation. And once again, it's not the guns that are the problem. It's the people who are using them. Because look, good people use guns to fight off someone who had a gun that was firing upon people. Now, if the person was driving a car and was trying to back up and hit more people, the same people with guns would shoot that person down and stop them. If that person was coming in with a knife, those same good guys with the guns would stop this person. So the whole gun control issue is a waste of time. It makes no sense, and we can see that it's completely losing traction. And I think the focus, and we need to look back at all the different cases, is to move into SSRI drugs, look at the mental health of the people. Who were these people talking to? Were they speaking to the FBI? Did the FBI pay these individuals off? Did they take them off their medication? Were they controlling them? And we're going to find out from this that, yeah, most of this was from them. So what we're seeing right now is that all these events are not working. We see the Cabal, they're going to become very, very desperate. We can see they're already making moves out in Saudi Arabia. They're making moves out in Lebanon. They're trying to push something out in Iran. And they're going to become very, very desperate. The central bank is going to become very, very desperate because they need an event to distract everyone to bring us onto a new system. And this is what they're trying to do. And they were hoping that this would have been done a long time ago. But it looks like we're reaching the point where it's becoming more and more difficult to keep the system held together because one little black swan, one little hiccup, the system comes down and everyone will blame the Fed, the central bank, the IMF. And I think this is why the Biz and the IMF are out there trying to protect themselves. And this is why they're saying there's too much debt. It's not good with these low interest rates, and they're talking about a collapse and a crash in their report, and they're trying to save face right now because they're starting to realize that this event might not happen and the collapse might go forward, and they need to protect their central banking system. And I think this is why they're starting to come out with all this information to say, hey, listen, we warned you about this. We told you this was going to happen. And they might point the fingers at the Fed, at the Cabal, and blame them for managing the whole thing. So this is something that we have to look at. But one thing is for sure is that we're not going to get around this collapse no matter what we do. The system is dying. The dollar is dying. And the central bankers, they've been making preparations for a very long time to move us onto a new system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.